The wind out of the Chuska Mountains does not blow, it hunts. It carries the scent of parched cedar and something older, something metallic, like blood dry on a warm stone. You sit there, your back against the rough bark of a pinyon pine, watching the fire die down to a collection of glowing, judgmental eyes. The year is 1881. The territory is a jagged scar of red rock and high desert silence known to the maps as New Mexico, but known to your soul as a place where the creator stopped his work early and left the shadows to finish the job. You are a man of the cattle, a creature of grit and leather, and you have spent 20 years believing that the only thing to fear in this basin is a dry well or a Comanche raiding party. But tonight, the Winchester across your lap feels like a toy. Tonight, you realize that the frontier is not a line on a map, but a veil, and that veil is beginning to tear. You remember the first time the silence changed. It was 3 weeks ago, out near the wash where the sagebrush grows taller than a man's waist. The sun was a bruised purple, sinking behind the mesas, and the cattle were restless. Not the kind of restless that comes from a prowling cougar. This was a collective, vibrating terror. They weren't lowing, they were weeping. You rode through the herd, the smell of grease and dust thick in your throat. When you saw him, a wolf. That's what your mind tried to tell you. It was gray, massive, with a coat that looked like it had been stitched together from the pelts of a dozen dead things. But it wasn't running. It was standing. It stood on its hind legs, its front paws dangling like broken hands, watching you from a ridge just 50 yards away. You reached for your carbine, but your fingers felt like lead. You looked into its eyes, not the yellow, mindless fire of a predator, but something pale, something human. It didn't howl. It mimicked the sound of your own horse's whinny, a perfect, mocking vibration that sent a cold spike down your marrow. And then, with a fluidity that defied every law of God's green earth, it dropped to all fours and vanished into the shadows of the arroyo. You told yourself it was a solitude, the desert as a way of turning a man's mind into a hall of mirrors, reflecting his own exhaustion back at him. You are a rancher, a man of hard facts and heavy ledgers. You deal in pounds of beef and gallons of water. Yet, as you sit by this dying fire, the reports you heard at the trading post in Fort Defiance keep echoing in your skull. Old Miller, a man who survived the bloody trail from Texas to Abilene, had sat there with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, whispering about a walking wolf that had slaughtered his best stud in a locked barn. No blood was licked from the floor, Miller had said. The animal had been opened up with precision that no beast possesses, its heart removed as if by a surgeon's blade. And the tracks... Miller swore on his mother's grave that the paw prints leading away from the barn slowly, agonizingly, turned into the footprints of a barefoot man. You laughed then. You called it Injun superstition and ordered another whiskey. You aren't laughing now. The darkness beyond the firelight feels heavy, like a physical weight pressing against your chest. And the silence is so absolute it is ringing in your ears like a funeral bell. The Navajo, the dying, they have a word for it. Yinalglushai. They don't speak it aloud. To speak of it is to invite it to your table. They say it is a medicine man who has crawled to the filth of the forbidden, a person who has traded their humanity for the skin of a beast. A skinwalker. You used to think these were just ghost stories designed to keep children from wandering too far from the Hogan. But as the moon climbs high and pale above the canyon rim, you realize that the American West is not just a place of progress and steam engines. It is a graveyard of ancient things that do not wish to be forgotten. You feel the presence before you hear it. A shift in the air pressure, a sudden drop in temperature that makes your breath bloom in front of you like a phantom. Something is circling the camp. It isn't trying to be quiet. It wants you to know it's there. You hear a soft, rhythmic thud, the sound of skin hitting the hard-packed earth. Thump, thump, thump. It circles the perimeter, just beyond the reach of the fire's dying amber glow. You stand up, your joints popping like pistol shots in the stillness. "Who's there?" You shout, but your voice sounds thin, fragile, against the vast indifference of the desert. The response is a sound that will haunt your dreams until the day the dirt covers your eyes. It is the sound of your wife's voice. Your wife, who is 300 miles away in a white picket house in eastern Kansas. She calls your name. It is her pitch, her cadence, her specific way of softening the last vowel. but it is coming from the throat of something that is breathing through a snout. It is a biological impossibility, a sonic nightmare that makes your stomach turn. You level the Winchester at the darkness, your thumb trembling on the hammer. You are a man of the 19th century, a pioneer of the industrial age. Yet here you are, reduced to a caveman defending a guttering flame against a demon from a nightmare. The creature steps into the very edge of the light. It is not a wolf. It is a mockery of one. The fur is patchy, revealing gray, necrotic skin underneath. The limbs are too long, the joints bending at angles that make your gorge rise. It wears a necklace of human finger bones, bleached white by the sun, clinking softly as it moves. But it is the face that breaks you. It is a mask of a wolf, yet the eyes behind the sockets are wet and brown and filled with a hateful, ancient intelligence. It doesn't snarl. It smiles, a wide, human grin that stretches the skin of its muzzle until it tears. You fire. The roar of the .44-40 is deafening, a flash of white light that burns your retinas. You see the bullet hit. You see the fur bunch and the body jerk. But there is no blood. There is only a sound like a dry stick snapping, and then the thing is gone, moving with a speed that the human eye cannot track. It doesn't run away. It simply ceases to be where it was and becomes something else in the dark. You spend the rest of the night standing back to back with a pinyon tree, the rifle stock welded to your shoulder. Every rustle of a tumbleweed, every scuttle of a lizard, is a fresh assault on your sanity. You realize then that the frontier was never truly tamed. We built our railroads, we fenced in the range, we mapped the rivers and the peaks, but we never accounted for the things that live in the gaps between the rocks. The ranchers who came before you, the ones who went mad or simply vanished into red dust. They knew. They saw the walking wolf. They felt the gaze of the Skinwalker. They understood that this land has a memory, and it does not take kindly to the intrusion of a new. History books will speak of the Lincoln County War, of Billy the Kid and Pat Garrett, of the struggle for land and gold. They will ignore the reports filed in dusty sheriff's offices about unidentified predators and mutilated livestock that defied natural explanation. They will sanitize the West, turning it into a stage for heroes and villains, leaving out the monsters that waited in the wings. When the sun finally breaks over the horizon, a bleeding line of gold that chases the shadows back into their holes, you find the tracks. They start 20 feet from your fire, large canine prints deep in the sand. You follow them for 50 yards, your heart hammering against your ribs. And then, as the sun hits the floor of the canyon, you see it, the transition. The wolf prints stop abruptly. In their place, a set of human footprints begins. They are the prints of a man who is walking upright. But the stride is unnaturally long, the toes digging deep into grit as if the walker were possessed by a frantic, kinetic energy. They lead straight toward a sheer cliff face and simply disappear. There is no cave, no crevice, just a solid, unforgiving wall of the mountain. You stand there in the growing heat of the day, the smell of sagebrush returning, the world looking normal once again. But you are changed. You look at your cattle, your horses, your very hands, and you see the fragility of it all. You are a tenant on this land, and the landlord is something that does not speak your language. You pack your gear in a trance. You ride back toward the ranch house, but you find yourself looking over your shoulder every 100 yards. You begin to notice things you missed before. The way certain rock formations look like huddled figures. The way the wind whistles through the canyons like a chorus of the damned. You realize that the walking wolf isn't just a creature. It is a manifestation of the desert's own malice. It is the price of admission for trying to carve a life out of a place that was never meant to be owned. As the years pass, you will tell no one. You will sit in your parlor in your old age, watching the 20th century arrive with its motor cars and electric lights, and you will feel a cold shiver when the moon is full. You will know that beneath the asphalt and the telegraph wires, the old ways still pulse. The Skinwalker is still there, draped in the hide of a predator, waiting for the fires to go out, waiting for a man to wander just a little too far from the safety of the light. The American frontier was one with blood and iron, but there are corners of it that will never be conquered. There are shadows that do not belong to us. And if you ever find yourself out past the edge of the map, where the sagebrush turns to silver in the moonlight, Remember the man by the fire. Tighten your grip on your rifle. And for the love of all that is holy, do not answer if you hear a familiar voice call your name from the dark. If you wish to keep these legends alive, join us at the fire by subscribing to the channel.